Good morning. I saw, let me start over. First of all, it's early. It's like 9, which might not seem early for some. Definitely not me pre-pregnancy, but it is really early. I didn't sleep well last night. I'm technically 39. Tomorrow will be 40 weeks. So we're this close to full term. We're 1 day away. Night trying to fall asleep at night is when I have the most Braxton Hicks and baby tries to get lower, and as much as I love the fact that they're slowly working their way down more and more, it's so hard. So I'm averaging probably a half hour of sleep and then up every hour, trying to, roll to the other side, go to the bathroom, get a drink of water. All of a sudden you have heartburn. It's just one thing after another. So I'm a little groggy, but I want to do this now because I'm gonna forget. I saw another post like this. They were asked this, a pregnant person who was pregnant for the first time was asked the same questions 9 months in and 9 months out after the baby's born. Nothing fancy. I mean, I haven't gotten ready. It's in the morning. I didn't sleep well, but I want to remember what was happening. 9 months in versus 9 months out. I was going to try to remember what's happening now versus in 9 months, because we're due tomorrow, but will the baby come tomorrow? I don't know. Hello. Now, to be completely honest, this is past the 9-month mark. I did try to video this at the 9-month mark, but the audio wasn't working, so I'm gonna use the same notes, but we're gonna try again. How are you feeling? I'm tired. Sorry. The baby won't come out yet, and I'm really ready for the baby to come out. It's tough because I also know that this is gonna be a lot of effort and a lot of work to have said baby, but I'm ready. I feel like I'm ready. Still tired, but it's not the same kind of tired that it was when I was pregnant. Also not sore. Not sore anymore. I mean, you're sore in different places. Your arms are sore and your back is sore, but that's just from being constantly holding your baby, and like especially if you're breastfeeding or bottle feeding, even you're down. Body is healed quite a bit, but you're sore in different places. Like your arms are really getting a really different kind of workout, your back is getting a really different kind of workout, picking your baby up, putting your baby down, back and forth like all day long. It takes its toll in a different way. How are you sleeping? Not well. Up every half hour. It's true, you have to pee, and then you have heartburn, and then your hips hurt because you're laying on one side, so you have to flip to the other side.
What about my soccer jersey?
Yeah, that's a good one.
It should be big enough and soft enough.
Honestly, there are phases to sleep. We'll have a few really hard weeks and then a few easy weeks, quote unquote, easy weeks. I say this because your body does get used to the interrupted sleep. It gets used to it. First time you hit that really hard wall of just exhaustion where your body can't take it anymore, but you have to keep going. When they don't really sleep easily after you do have a really solid routine is really tough. It's so tough, especially right when you're in the middle of it. It feels impossible. That lasted a really long time. The first time we really hit that was at her 4.5 month mark, where just suddenly she couldn't be swaddled anymore. The routine we had set that was working for us wasn't working because she couldn't be swaddled because she was learning how to roll over. And so between 4.5 and 6 months, sleep was just really difficult. We weren't getting very much of it. We were crabby at each other because we were awake and she was awake. It was a lot of stress and pressure. So I would say that was the roughest time for us, between the 4.5 and 6 months. And you have to talk to your partner. You have to figure out with your pediatrician what kind of sleeping plan you want. Every child is different. When you're in the middle of it though, I remember thinking this the first time the sleep regression hit, where she wasn't sleeping at all. We couldn't wrap her up and she wasn't getting, we were exhausted. It was a lot. I remember feeling defeated, and I remember feeling like, how can this possibly go on? Why aren't more parents talking about this? Are we the only ones? Like, I felt so low in that 4.5 to 6 months where I just felt like I was doing everything wrong. We weren't on the same page. Especially, it's hard when you're not able to discuss in a calm, rational way, right? It's not during the day when everyone's good that you're having these discussions about the sleep schedule or sleep training, which it should be. Don't fight about it in the middle of the night. It's better. It's better to talk about it when you're both somewhat rational, even if you're sleep deprived, rather than one person or both people just having, opposite opinions. It can be really hard. So something to keep in mind. I know now, I didn't know that. The newborn phase, you are exhausted. you're exhausted and you're healing and you're still adjusting to having a baby, so you do feel really, really worn out in that newborn phase. But not having to pee every 2 seconds is pretty amazing. So from going from pregnant to having to pee all the time constantly, even when you're finally comfortable and you have this big belly and you finally get in the right spot, you have to get up and go to the bathroom. It's so annoying. But when you've had your baby, even when you're sore and you're still healing, you don't have to pee every 2 seconds, and that feels like such a win. Hardest thing about pregnancy, that one's tricky. The hardest part about pregnancy, I think there's a lot of things that are really difficult. Being able to do the things that you could do before and feeling frustrated by it, wanting to get things done or not having the motivation to get things done the way you would have before, or you have the motivation but you don't have the energy.
Much better.
Looks really good.
Good little soccer jersey.
He looks like we're shooting an Air Bud commercial.
Good boy.
Go play a game with the park.
Well, I was gonna say it should be smooth enough. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good boy.
You do. You look like you're so
Day,
cute.
bro.
Maybe we'll start doing that for Gabriel. Start getting his number.
That would be really cute. Our dog has got some armpit issues, so now he's got clothes on. Yeah. Oh boy. Tail is wagging. The second tier is probably just frustration. The hardest part is when you're not getting the sleep that you need and your body is desperate for it. So this one goes back to sleep. When your body is desperate for sleep and you can't get any, it's really defeating. It's really, really defeating. So be kind to yourself because it's a lot of work. The hardest thing about parenthood, that one's tricky because there's different avenues of it. Like, hardest part of bonus parenting, sharing time, like splitting decisions and having this little person you want around all the time, but you also want them to have a good time at their other side. That's tricky. Split families, that's hard, I would say. Parenthood before the baby's born, I don't know. Not a full decision yet because the baby's not here yet. Hypothetical. Everything is a hypothetical. You can hypothetically talk about how you're going to handle X, Y, Z, but you can't guarantee any of that yet. So I would say that's probably the hardest part about parenthood at 9 months pregnant. The hardest part is if your baby is, it's not even hardest part of parenthood or pregnancy. They're two different things. So the hardest part of parenting is probably when your little one is sick or not feeling well. It just tears you up inside for any reason. If something isn't what it should be, you want to take it on for them. You would trade them places in an instant to like take the pain or the sickness or the flu or whatever it is, teething, anything, diaper rash. You wish you could just take it on for them and that they wouldn't have to be in pain at all. Best part of parenthood 9 months pregnant is feeling the baby have little hiccups when they move. I've been really fortunate the fact that this baby's been moving a lot. And I think during the second trimester, I felt them move really early. 16 weeks is when I first felt the baby move. So I identified the sensation. I thought, oh, that's cool. At the end of the second trimester, I remember being like, are they moving enough? Is that, you start to get this like fear in your head that they're not moving the way that they should be. I can understand how people get paranoid about that kind of thing because it's really easy to spiral out and think like something's wrong when it's not wrong. So I think the best part has been feeling them move around and knowing that they're safe on the inside. There's something very comforting about the fact that they're getting their needs met. Even if it's at the expense of you feeling really crappy, it feels good to know that they're, you know, they're safe and they're warm. Best part now that she's born and it's been 9 months. Probably seeing her grow. Moments that you wait for are the best part, like when you first have your baby and you're waiting for them to take that first breath and cry and you finally hear it. That's a really good part. The first smile, first time sitting up, a lot of the firsts are definitely good. Well, the first laugh, that was really great. I loved the first laugh. In 9 months you start to see their personality shine through a little bit more and you kind of figure out who this little person is personality wise, and that is like totally unlike anything else because they're your genetics, but they're this little human being that is 100% new too. It's very cool. What is birth like? I don't know. I've been a doula for a while, so I think I know. I'm trying to prepare myself for the fact that it might not be what I'm expecting it to be. Hope I go into labor with easy signs of labor, like water breaking or contractions or the mucus plug or whatever, and then we get to labor at home for a minute, and then we go to the midwife center and I get the water birth that I want, and it's like manageable and not too painful. Hi. You can see there's a giant dog on this side of me. So what is birth like? I've seen a lot of different types of birth. I've seen hospital birth and home birth and Pitocin birth and no drugs birth and epidurals and no epidurals, and I've never been in a cesarean room, but I've obviously watched videos of them, so I've seen a lot of different types of birth. I think the hard part is knowing what kind of birth I will end up having is just a big question mark. I'm trying just to be open to whatever birth needs to happen will happen, and we'll hopefully get the birth that we want. Oh, a good one. This is a good one. I'm gonna remember writing this down. What will birth be like? Oh, Bailey of the past. What we could tell you. What we could tell you about what birth was like. Because there's so much I could unpack here, but we're gonna try to keep it somewhat short. I was really frustrated by the early warning signs of labor, or what will labor feel like? Will I know when I'm in labor? Because everyone I talked to said, you'll just know. You will just know that you're in labor. And I was so frustrated by this answer because I'm pretty sure I was in prodromal labor, which is like a slow labor, for 2 weeks before I actually had the baby. Every single night, my contractions would stay consistent. I couldn't sleep for about 2 weeks before, because every time I'd lay down, I was having contractions. And they felt like period cramps, like a little uncomfortable, painful, but not undoable. I could handle them. They were annoying, and I was in pain, and I was tired, and I was grouchy, especially from the lack of sleep, but they were doable. And so I hated hearing, you'll just know, because I was like, will I? Unlike movies and TV, your water doesn't, well, most of the time I will say, your water isn't gushing and you're in labor. You're in labor. As a doula in my 8-year career, that's not how most labors have started in my experience, nor my own. You hear about all these signs, and the biggest one I think is usually you losing your mucus plug, but your mucus plug can grow back. And then you're also furiously Googling, what does a mucus plug look like? What does this look like? What does a bloody show? You're constantly Googling these things, and just know that your experience is probably going to be different than other people's experiences, and that is okay. I was so convinced I'd go into labor early, and I didn't. The day we should have gone to the birth center for an induction is the day that I went, or was the morning that I went to labor. We were supposed to go later that afternoon to start a gentle induction. Just because it was 40 plus weeks, I was overdue. Well, overdue. My baby came right when she was supposed to be. Was in prodromal labor for about 2 weeks, where I was each night having regular contractions, and then in the morning they would peter out. And I was so frustrated. So that night, just like any other, I went to bed, and then at 10 o'clock, after not being able to sleep, it was painful, it was constant, but it didn't feel any different than any other night in the week. So I took a bath and laid back down. I took another bath and laid back down. I think it was 3 or 4 in the morning that I called our midwife and let her know that I thought I was in labor, but I wasn't 100% sure. And like a good midwife, she recommended I just take it easy until I honestly couldn't stay at home anymore, and then, to text her or call her again, and she'd meet me at the birth center. And I remember thinking, I really don't want to, I didn't want to be embarrassed that I wasn't in labor, but I wanted to give her a heads up just in case I was. And I remember thinking, this is just, it's painful, and I want it to be here. At that point, your body is so full and you're so big and everything hurts. You just want to have the baby for relief. It's not so much about, I want to hold them and they're so cute. You do, but the biggest thing for me was I don't want to be pregnant anymore. 10 p.m. to 5:30 a.m. in the morning. I had sat, we have a big yoga ball. I rolled and rocked on that in front of the fireplace. I woke up Jordan, I think around 5, to let him know that I thought I was in labor. I remember he was very kind of confused when I first woke him up. But he brought me some watermelon, and I had some watermelon as he packed up the car with everything to go to the birth center. And I felt pretty calm. I felt pretty calm for the whole thing in the morning. In fact, I was the one, even though they were very consistent and still close together, they were about that 5-1 minute mark. He was really nervous to get to the birth center. I remember I was the one that said, no, I'm gonna shower first. Like, let me take a shower. Not to get ready, but just because it felt good. And like I said, the contractions were strong, but it felt like period pain, just really intense period pain. And so labor was interesting. So we go to the birth center. I think we got there at 6 a.m. Around 7, I think I had a total of 17 hours for my labor and delivery when she was finally here. And I did throw up, which I was nervous about, but it was fine. You're just going through a lot. I did end up having her in the water, and I'm so glad that I did. The way that I describe it is it was difficult. It's like climbing a mountain. It's definitely rewarding. Absolutely. You get this fresh little new babe, and they're so cute, and you're so excited for all your hard work of, you know, 9 months plus carrying and growing this human. But it is kind of the best thing I can compare it to is like climbing a mountain. Like the whole way up, you're just like, why am I doing this? Am I going to make it to the top? My goodness, I should have been training better for this. Like, you have all these thoughts on the way up, right? But when you get to the view, when you have the baby, you finally feel this relief of, I did it. I like made it to the top. That's incredible. It's just, it's unlike any other feeling. I will say it's the greatest high in the entire world because it's unlike anything else you'll ever do. Have this baby and you're just awestruck, and that is alchemy. It's magic. I feel really great afterward. She was 8 pounds 2 ounces. She was a big baby. She was fully done. And she did have lots and lots of thick black hair, and I remember thinking, yep, the heartburn was right. The entire time I had heartburn, and here she is with this full head of hair. I did get to catch her too, which was super special. My fiance, so Jordan was there. He was my rock. He was my focal point. Ice chips and giving me drinks and rubbing my back, and I had a really good team around me and supporting me, and I had the support of my mom. I had talked to my mom the day before, and that really helped settle my nerves because I just kept hearing her words in my head as I was laboring. I could hear her like reassurances and that I could do this and that I, you know, all of these things. So I had her in my head. I had my helpers around me, and it settled my jitters that I had felt. At the water birth that I wanted, it wasn't painless. That is something I was hoping for, like painless, really quick 4-hour birth is what I had journaled, but it wasn't painless. It was empowering though, and I would do it natural again in a heartbeat. We're not having any more babies, but if, like, let's just say the fates lined up perfectly, I would definitely go again. Water birth, I would do no epidural. I would go to a birth center, not a hospital. All of those things that we chose, I would do it again that way because it was such a positive experience. Best piece of advice I've been given is just to trust yourself and that, like, your parenthood or your labor and delivery or your pregnancy is yours, and there's not a right or wrong answer for a lot of things. Like, I feel like there is a lot of restrictions around do this, don't do this, or this is when you should do these things, and if you don't, you're a bad parent, or there's all this parental pressure to be a certain way or do something a certain way, and that is silly. So the best piece of advice I've gotten is just like, trust your instincts, go with the flow, and it's never going to be something you can completely plan or, you know, go through steps with. It's just going to be what it is, but that doesn't mean you can't prepare. I think that's the best piece of advice. Worst piece of advice: when the baby sleeps, you don't know what it's going to be like to have the baby on the outside, and you're already so tired, and I'm sure I'm going to be tired in a different way once the baby's here and you're feeding them 24/7. There's been a lot of, I would say, not great advice given. Best piece of advice that I've been given, probably still just the best advice, which is, okay, focus on your own instincts, spend time and love your baby, be kind to yourself. You just did something incredible. Be kind to yourself, and then talk to your partner. Do not shoulder anything alone if you don't have to. Do not feel like you have to do everything. Just really have an open line of communication. For all elements of parenting, it's important that you be able to speak your opinion and be kind and trust each other. The worst advice I've got as a parent so far, that there's been some bad advice. When I was pregnant, I remember hearing, sleep when the baby sleeps, which is just, you know, ridiculous. Because you still have to do your real life when you're out and about and the baby's born. Relationship like with food, eat a lot at the moment. Pregnancy cravings will hit you hard. Keep it a mix of like comfort food and then fresh fruit and, you know, vegetables and carbs and good things for you. Interesting, first trimester I had cravings for things like Cheetos and chocolate milk and pickle and what other things was I after the first trimester? Nectarines. Second trimester I had less cravings. Third trimester got back to wanting chocolate milk and nectarines. Cocoa Puffs or Cocoa Pebbles have been a big one on my mind. I don't know why. I don't even like Cocoa Pebbles that much, but that's been one. It was strange. It was a strange want, Cocoa Pebbles. I've heard from my sister-in-law that post-birth cravings are just as powerful as for like when you're pregnant. So I'm very curious about that, if that's true for me. What is your relationship like with food? This is a good one. Okay, it's a bit more complicated, honestly. There's a lot of pressure to be back where you were before you had the baby, and you feel totally foreign to yourself after they're born. And it's not coming from any place close. Like, it's not my partner saying, oh, you need your body back or anything like that. It's just repressed issues that of looking a certain way, old bad habits, like things that pop up that you want to feel like yourself again because you're in this new position, you have these new responsibilities, but you don't look like yourself in most cases. At least I didn't think I did. All right job though, I did give myself the first year of not putting any pressure on myself, of like not weighing myself, of not working out really hard, of just trusting my body, going for walks, taking care of my baby, bonding. Like, that was my goal, and I'm so thankful I did it. Like, looking back even further now, past that 9-month mark, there's a part of me that wishes I had started doing like a little bit more exercises, but really that can spiral really quickly, especially if, like me, in your high school years you were like obsessed with this idea of being thinner or smaller or tinier, whatever. Just give yourself a break. Be kind to yourself. Don't put pressure on yourself about it. Just take it day by day. Oh, post-birth cravings. I do know quite a few women that had cravings really strong after their baby was born too for certain things, and I just really didn't. I didn't have too many post-birth cravings. When I was pregnant, I had all kinds of cravings, and you know, food items. Post-birth, I was just trying to be kind to my body. So we did have treats, like someone gave us a cheesecake after she was born, and that was delicious. I did eat, I think I'd snack a little bit more mindlessly just because your schedule is all thrown in out of whack. Again, you're not sleeping at night. You're kind of sleeping during the day / mini naps while you're still getting used to mom life. And when they get bigger and they're starting solids, you're, you know, finishing their meals because they're not eating. So it's a balance, but my relationship with food is still complicated, still working on it. I think we're getting better, and I think it's important that that's something that I know that I struggle with, and so I know that I have to be paying attention to it. Most surprising thing about pregnancy? Again, I think it's because I've been doing doula stuff and I've read so many books and I've been at so many births, or I've done, like, I know how unique it is to each person, but there are still things I was expecting to happen that didn't happen, or there are some things that I was like, surely that's blown out of proportion and it's not serious, that I'm like, oh, okay, it totally is. One of the surprising things is when I first got pregnant, I remember looking at like pre-pregnancy symptoms, or the signs that you're pregnant before you can take a test, and everything I read wasn't happening. Your boobs getting bigger, I'm trying to think, there are a handful of symptoms that are on almost every single list if you Google like, what are your pre-pregnancy test symptoms, and none of them were accurate to me until way later on. Some of those things did happen later on, but like after I already knew I was pregnant, after the test already said yes. That was one of those things that really surprised me. I was wishing you would just know you're pregnant, and I guess in a small way I felt a little different, but it also felt very similar to having your period. So flip side of that, something that I thought surely is blown out of proportion, it's just comedic value, isn't real, that has turned out to be real. Like the peeing every 5 seconds, having to go pee every 5 seconds. So true, at least it has been for me. It's been so true. Or they mean to waddle. It's not that you're trying to waddle, it's that you're compensating for your center of gravity being different. And compensate for this weight that you have on you is really hard. Your belly touches things before you do. Simple things you used to take advantage of, like doing the dishes, wiping down the counter, can't do those things anymore because your belly is physically blocking you. Or trying to hug your partner like, oh, good morning, and there's this giant belly in the way. The most surprising thing about pregnancy, hard now looking back just because it's been so long. The most surprising thing. Probably some of just the comedic things that were true versus not true. The bladder thing that you hear about in movies and stuff, true. I had to pee all the time. Post-birth things, like most surprising things post-birth. Oh, I guess probably the most surprising thing to me after she was born was that I wasn't in a ton of pain. I mean, I was sore and I was a little stiff, but I felt like myself. Like I don't think I had any pain medication till day 3. I had an aspirin because I was a little sore, but I wasn't in like an excruciating amount of pain. And I credit that to the water birth. I do. I think being able to relax, and that's like my happy place even as an adult now, is like the bathtub. And so I think that made a huge difference in my pain levels, and like I didn't tear, I didn't, you know, all of these things. I think I attribute that to like doing my research and knowing what I would want from my birth. So that was probably surprising, was that I thought I'd be in a bit more pain and I wasn't. I would still say the first trimester is the hardest trimester, but I don't know what postpartum is going to be like. So knock on wood that goes smoothly, and I'm aware of the symptoms of like baby blues versus postpartum depression. Okay, love you too. Fourth trimester will be the hardest for me. I don't know yet. That one's hard too. I think first trimester is hardest because you feel so sick. Felt ill, nobody knows yet. You're trying to keep it a secret, but you want to talk to people about it. Can't tell your work why you don't feel good, so you're you're trying to compensate for not feeling good. And it's like having vertigo. Felt really nauseous and really dizzy. Even doing simple things, you had to take it really slow. It felt like it would go on forever. Food aversions would kick in, and I couldn't stand the smell of meat. Thinking of raw chicken would make me want to throw up. And I don't know where it would come from, but just the thought of someone like opening a piece of chicken and it not being cooked, I would get sick. So it's weird. It's very strange. Hardest trimester. I think my last answer was that it was the first, and I'm going to have to agree that that was the hardest trimester. Fourth trimester, so after you've had your baby, is no walk in the park. It's not a picnic. I think the hardest part of the fourth trimester was just, again, seeing my body change in such a big way, in such a drastic way. And, you know, all the like loose skin and stretch marks and redness and things that weren't there before that are there now. It was, I think, a bit more shocking than I thought it would be. I've written here, and this is true, I really had to take the time to walk and talk through with myself and not compare to the other people around me, even other moms that had babies similar times, or people that had more kids than me, or I just really had to stop comparing myself. Because again, that response wanted to be like, go back to those unhealthy eating habits of like, I'm just not going to eat as much because that'll make me smaller, or I'm just going to like window it down into something else, like putting this energy and effort into things that aren't healthy. At least mine just jumped into like, okay, less calories, really excessive exercise, restrictive diet, like all of those things kind of jumpstart in your head. And I had to stop and tell myself, no, even when I don't recognize this body, we're gonna get there, we're gonna get where we want to get, we're gonna be stronger than ever, but you gotta take it slow. Focus on your little baby, focus on how that feels, focus on these things, learning your new, day to day. Do not put pressure on yourself. Easiest part of pregnancy is probably that second trimester, but not in the way you think. A little bit more of your energy back, tiny bit. So it's better in comparison to the first and third trimesters. Around week 30 or 29, I would say, is when I started to feel like tired again. Between weeks, I don't know exactly, between the end of it is like week 29, you still feel pretty good-ish. You can go do the things you want to do. You don't have the same nausea you do. You're still a little tired because you're growing a human being and they're taking a lot of your resources before you can, but you don't feel as sick and you don't feel as tired. You just feel like, you got your bump and I feel like you're more motivated, like I can do anything and I could do this pregnancy forever. What would I say to future Bailey? How did it go? How was labor? Did we go to the full 42 weeks? Did we have the baby tomorrow? Very curious how it was having family visit. How do you feel? Did we tear? Oh man. many questions I have for future Bailey that I wish I could know now that I just can't. But I would just say you're gonna do it and you're gonna do great. And I'm so proud of you. I'm excited to see who this baby is. Are they a boy? Are they a girl? Do they have hair? Are they bald? Fat or skinny? There's so many questions I have about just the physical and, you know, mental space of how are you? How are you feeling? Past Bailey as far as not being pregnant Bailey, I don't know. Right now, we're in that middle stage of parenthood where they're just not on the outside yet. But they're coming. What I tell past Bailey, if I could swap these videos around, you know, 9 months ago before I have her, what would I tell myself? And here we go. Coming, honey. Alright, you'll have to excuse the change in light. It's later in the day. The sun has moved. I think we're on to last 2 questions. Okay, our last 2 questions are things that I would say to past Bailey are, we went to about 42 weeks and 3 days, roughly. Having family come visit afterward was so amazing. I loved every single minute of seeing the people I love my little one. It was incredible. No, we didn't really tear. We did have 2 small splits, but nothing that required stitches. No stress there. I know you were really worried about stitches and getting sewed up or like lidocaine in that area, but you didn't need them. So it's okay. I wanted to say thank you for your vote of confidence, past Bailey. We did use a lot of positive affirmations in our labor. I think I constantly remember saying, tell me something good, like from the people on my team. I didn't really yell at anyone. I wasn't mean, I wasn't cussing anybody out. I kept it really calm. Although I did ask everyone to chew on some gum at one point of my labor because I was like super sensitive to smell. I said, everybody needs to eat a piece of gum. How am I feeling? Honestly, pretty good. I miss being pregnant. No, I don't really miss being pregnant. I didn't hate it by any means. It was a challenge. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work growing a person because honestly, all you want occasionally are breaks. Like most of the time you can handle it really well, even with the morning and night and noon sickness, even with food aversions, cravings, swelling, the things that you don't miss. I mean, I think you definitely miss the moments where you can feel your baby move. That's pretty incredible. It's an odd feeling, but it's really cool to feel your baby move around and shift and jump, jab, and be moving. So those parts you do miss a little bit. And there is, towards the end of my pregnancy, I remember feeling just very thankful, but also this feeling of, well, at least now you know that they're safe and they're with you at all times and they're not hurt. Like there's this comfort in this bubble of they're with me and they're safe and I have control over, you know, certain things. Whereas when they're born, you lose a piece of that control because you know that now they're out in the world and they're able to do these things, and it throws you for quite a loop when they're born. But no, I don't miss being pregnant. It was worth it. It was challenging, but it was worth it. And yeah, 9 months out versus, oh, also apologies, I did have to change my shirt. I got, now that you know that their little ones are on the outside, you constantly are getting messy because they are constantly getting messy. So you're this human napkin in motherhood. Human napkin is my 9 months in, 9 months out video. Slightly belated 9 months out, slightly, but not by much. So wish future mamas who are watching this all of the luck in the world. You are going to do amazing, wonderful things. You're the best thing to ask about or to talk about really when someone's expecting is it's not that you're just expecting a baby. The baby part only lasts about a year. You're raising a human being, and that part is the part that's such a conscious decision, such a conscious effort to make sure that you are giving this little human everything they need to succeed. And you're gonna fumble a little bit along the way because you're still learning and growing and changing too, and that's okay. That's okay. If you're doing the best you can, it's the most important piece. You're doing a good job. With that, good luck, and I'll see you in the next video.